There's a lot of guys on those championship teams who've done nothing.
Hey guys, this is Dominique Wilkins.
Hey, this is Sean Kemp.
This is Gary Payton.
Hey, this is Pau Gasol.
NBA fans, what's up? This is Vince Carter here.
Hey, what's up? This is Matt Barnes. If you're an old school NBA fan like I am, make sure you check out the Basketball Time Machine with my man Sean David.
Hey folks, how's it going? Welcome back to the Basketball Time Machine. My name is Sean David. Thanks for tuning in. Let's talk some old school NBA basketball. Now, if you know my show, then you know that I love to cover Michael Jordan, but I also like to have comparisons and also, dig a little bit deeper and see how former NBA players respond to Michael Jordan, what their opinion was about MJ. But mostly, it's always those 80s and 90s guys. But in today's episode, I want to take a look at Wilt Chamberlain and his relationship and his thoughts about Michael Jordan and how he had a very interesting point of view. But before we start with that, let me ask you guys for a small favor. If you're new to the show, please subscribe to the channel and like the video if you enjoy the content. And otherwise, I would say, let's get right into it.
I've been doing fine, man. I go bad equipment fine, man. I've been watching. We'll give you a couple talks soon, man. All right, let's do that.
When I read it in the newspaper, I said, this can't be. You're meeting Michael Jordan for the first time?
Can you imagine that? But it is amazing because the man's been playing now for 11 years. Been out there for 12 years. But socially, we just never had a chance to really meet. And I've only seen very few games since I've retired. Live, I watch tons and tons of games every day and night by satellite and on my TV thing. So, not surprising, I was always looking forward to watching him play one time, and I'm still waiting for my first time to truly watch him play. I watched him in the All-Star game, but that's something different.
Now, as we all know, Wilt Chamberlain died a long time ago, so obviously we haven't seen him in the 2000s, and he basically also missed a big portion of Michael Jordan's career. And the interesting part is that he seemed to have changed his mind about Michael Jordan over the years, and it seemed like the better Michael Jordan got, the more Wilt Chamberlain had to say. But I want to show you some clips just to give you a perspective of what his thoughts were, and then I will comment on it and give you my opinion. Let's take a look at Wilt Chamberlain's clips first.
Well, you know what? I'm glad you said that because you see, the mentality of the fan today is wonderful, and they've learned to accept showbiz.
Right.
And Michael is the epitome of showbiz, along with that great talent. During my time, if you did a 360, first of all, the opposition would take it as an insult that you would try to do something like that against them. The coach on your own team, if you weren't at least 90,000 points ahead, would bench you. And the fans will look at you like, well, he's the biggest hot dog in the world.
So you're saying Michael Jordan back then would have been on the bench the whole time?
Absolutely, being considered a hot dog. Think about that, and that's the truth.
Really?
But now in Chicago, if he doesn't give you one of those 360s you're talking about,
right,
even though their team is 90 points ahead,
right,
they're looking for something spectacular.
The fans will turn on you.
Right, you're right.
Back then it was more about teamwork, working together.
Absolutely.
It bothers you when people talk about him as being the greatest player of all time?
Well, it bothers me because we all have our opinions, and I don't think that, commensurate with what he's doing, what he's done, and how the game is going today, that he's better than a number of people.
I contend Michael Jordan is the greatest basketball player who ever lived. I would put you number 2, only because you only won 2 championships. Now, people are going to say, well, you know what, he had a lot of stats and this and that. You won 2 world championships, okay?
I have a friend of mine who I talk to about once a week. You know what he says about Michael's 4 championships? He doesn't say anything about it. Because he has 11.
Bill Russell.
I don't think, you can predicate how great a guy really is or because he has championships. There's a lot of guys on those championship teams who've done nothing.
The greatest scorer of all time? Not even. Would you even give him that?
Well, you see, what people don't remember was that my first 7 years, I scored a lot of points. Then I stopped scoring on my own volition.
What if we could send Michael Jordan back to playing basketball with you in your prime? How do you think he would do in those days?
Well, first of all, I'm glad you said with me, and not against me. Michael Jordan is one of those rare specimens that could have played at any particular time and is a gifted athlete who is using those gifts in basketball incredibly so. He has been the liaison between something that's not so good and making it great for all the rest. I think that almost every man in the NBA NBA should give him 10% of their checks.
What would his playing style, how would that have translated back then?
Well, his playing style is he's 6'7" and he's like 197 pounds. Coming into what we call our domain, the pivot for us big guys, would not have been very wise of Michael, if he was playing during our time. So we would say, Michael, as long as you do all those fancy things outside of where we are, that's fine. So it wouldn't have been good for Michael.
Really?
No.
You think he'd have been crushed, is what you're saying?
I don't think. I know he'd been crushed. All the years while I was usually scoring all those points, I was leading the league in percentile shooting. And that's also important because if you take all the shots, then you should be making the highest percentage. So when they compare me with Michael's averaging 31 points for his lifetime. I averaged about 30 points for a lifetime. But I stopped scoring. I know that basketball is a team game,
right?
And you've already made Michael number one. But if you had to have Wilt against Michael, my prime and his prime, how much money would you be willing to bet?
Wow.
Now, some pretty interesting stuff, isn't it? I mean, the guy was super smart, and I actually really enjoyed listening to him. And I gotta be honest too. From all the players who played in the NBA before the 1980s, that guy to me is the most fascinating basketball player. It's not even a question. That guy to me is such an interesting person, such an interesting basketball figure. And when you hear stories like from Arnold Schwarzenegger, who said that Wilt Chamberlain could bench press like more than him. I mean, that's just crazy. And that he was able to lift Arnold Schwarzenegger up like a kid. And when you hear some other stories from players who actually played against him, look, in my opinion, 50s and 60s and 70s basketball was far away from what it became in the 80s and 90s. And still, if somebody would tell me, okay, you have Michael Jordan playing against Wilt Chamberlain, who would you bet your money on? Honestly, that's a tough one. And again, honestly, I probably would bet on Wilt Chamberlain. And I'm the biggest Jordan fan in the world, but that guy to me was just scary, just a scary figure. And let me hit you up with some other things. Now, I understand why Wilt Chamberlain was a little bit frustrated at the point where people were not considering him to be the greatest player of all time, because for a long period, everybody was sure that it's Wilt Chamberlain. But then when everything shifted to Michael Jordan, I understand why Will feels a little bit cheated on, because he must be thinking like, hey, I was averaging points that you have never seen before. And even haven't seen it since. I scored 100 points in a single game. I averaged 50 points a game. I averaged more than 20 rebounds a game. And the only reason why I stopped producing those numbers is because my coach asked me to do it. So if I would have done it my way, I probably would have had the highest career average of all time. And I understand that this is kind of frustrating to him. Now, there are interviews where he says that Michael Jordan is incredible and that the NBA players should all give Jordan some money out of their paycheck because Jordan is that great. And that shows that he was not a hater. But I think at a certain point, it just switched to the degree that he felt like disrespected, which I can also understand. And I also understand from his perspective, and I'm the biggest Jordan fan, but I can understand why he feels that he was better than Jordan. Looking at his game, he was super advanced, and he was not just that physical, dominant basketball player who would do everything with force. He actually had game, and that was the thing that many people overlook. He was skill plus physical dominance, and that was a mixture that we haven't seen forever. If Michael Jordan would have played against Wilt Chamberlain, I would say yes, Wilt would win against him. Does Wilt Chamberlain have more value than Michael Jordan on the basketball market, so to speak? No. I would say Michael Jordan is slightly superior than Wilt Chamberlain from a value standpoint. But I want to make sure that all the fans in the world around the basketball globe know that Wilt Chamberlain was a special player. And yes, I've never seen him play live. I've only seen entire games, a lot of them though. But I can see why he believes that he also would have been better in the 90s or in the future, because that is in the 50s and 60s, and even in the 70s, the basketball game, the balance of spacing wasn't there. Just like I feel like the spacing in the 90s was perfect, and just like I feel that the spacing in today's NBA is terrible, too much. Back in the 50s and 60s, it was too crowded in the paint. And I think, or I understand why he feels that Jordan would have had it tough because it's just so crowded in there. Still, I believe Jordan would have found a way because Jordan is Jordan. But I understand where Wilt Chamberlain is coming from. But there's no denying that the 50s and 60s were inferior to the 90s and that Jordan would have also dominated that era together with Wilt Chamberlain. Now, Wilt, obviously, I never got the chance to talk to him. I wish I could have. I mean, I spoke to Dennis Rodman and many of those legends, and Wilt just would have been so interesting. But yeah, we'll never get the chance. Now, I want to know from you guys, what do you think? Do you think that Wilt Chamberlain was also a better one-on-one player against Jordan? I know it's super hard to tell, but I would like to hear your opinion. I think that he was just so strong that at a certain point, if you have that strength combined with skill, there's nothing that Jordan can do. It's not like against LeBron James. If it's LeBron James against Michael Jordan, I will take Michael Jordan all the way because contrary to what everybody says, I don't believe that LeBron James is really stronger than Michael Jordan. I think that mentality and will always gives you that extra notch, and it's in addition to body strength. Yeah, you can be weaker from your body's power against somebody else, but your will can surpass him. I don't know if that makes sense, but I think Jordan is was stronger than LeBron. But Wilt, honestly, no. Let me know in the comments below. What do you think about the whole Wilt on Jordan comments? And yeah, who was better? Let me know in the comments, and I'll see you next time on the Basketball Time Machine.
What was going on in that conversation?
Well, I just went over to say hello to him, and I was like everybody else. I meant all. You understand? So I went over to say hello and said that we got to get together and talk sometime, which he wanted to do, and it was nice. I mean, most people have thought that we had met, but no, I don't play golf. You understand? And he doesn't play volleyball. So, but you know, here we are now.
I got the chance to meet Wilt Chamberlain for the first time, which I thought was a privilege for me. I mean, being that I finished second to him in a lot of individual stats and career stats and scoring stats, and he was a very nice individual. Came up to me and congratulated me on my career. And you know, I'm a basketball enthusiast, and you know, I honor and respect the people that gave me the opportunity to excel at this game and make a living of this.